In other words, it's not of works, it's of the grace and of the election of who the Most High has called. Go ahead.
What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for.
Right, so Israel had not obtained that which he seeketh for. What was Israel seeking for? They were seeking for the truth. They were seeking for salvation. But they didn't obtain it back then. And now who is this Israel talking about? Is it talking about the whole nation of Israel? No, it was talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Even though you had remnants of the tribes that were still there, the majority of the tribes had already been brought to the captivity under the Assyrians and come over to this side of the world. Back about 1,000 years, back about approximately about 800 years. By the time the Lord had came on the scene, they had already been in captivity. They had already been on this side of the world roughly about 800 years. Go ahead.
Verse 7. What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded.
So even among the Jews, they didn't obtain that which they were seeking for, which is salvation, which is the truth, but the election had obtained it, because there were certain Jews that believed. That's why when you read in the scriptures, there's certain accounts of Jews or of the Pharisees, or righteous Pharisees, and certain other Jews that were there at the time that believed because they were righteous. But it says, and the rest were blinded, meaning the rest of Israel or the rest of the Jews at that time were blinded. Go ahead.
According as it is written, the Most High hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they shall not see, and ears that they shall not hear unto this day.
That's why Yahushua said that, oh, well has Isaiah spoken of you, or well have the prophets spoken of you, where they say that eyes have they and they see not, and ears have they and they hear not. Go ahead. Verse 9.
Okay. And David saith, let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them.
Right, so King David in his spirit, he spoke against Israel, or the Jews. It said, let their table be made a snare, which is talking about the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which is comparable unto fruits and meat and potatoes and peas and all that good stuff, and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. Why? Because they had to fall. See, the Jews in Jerusalem, they had to fall so that the Israelite foreigners can be brought in, so that mercy can be extended unto them, because the Most High deals with mercy. Alright, verse 10, brother.
Verse 10. Let their eyes be darkened, that they may not see, and bow down their back always.
Go ahead.
I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall?
So who is Paul speaking of here? I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? He's talking about the Jews. Did the Jews stumble? They stumbled at their stumbling stone, which is Yahushua. They fell, right? But did they stumble that they should fall, meaning that they should be cast off or cast away? Go ahead. Rest of 11.
Okay. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? The Most High forbid.
Go ahead.
But rather through their fall, salvation is come upon the Israelite foreigners.
Right. The salvation has come. The salvation. I'm sorry. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? The Most High forbid. But rather through their fall, the Jews' falls, salvation is come unto the Gentiles or the Israelite foreigners, for to provoke them to jealousy. To provoke who to jealousy? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Now let's go from there. Let's go to the book of Acts, the 13th chapter, because we read Acts earlier in the previous show, the Acts the 13th chapter, but we stopped a little short. And the reason why I stopped short is because there was a point to be made in this point now. So go to Acts the chapter 13, verse 40 to 45.
Acts chapter 13, verse 40. Beware therefore, lest that come upon you which is spoken of in the prophets. Behold, ye despisers, and wonder and perish. For I work a work in your days, a work which ye shall in no wise believe, though a man declare unto you. We read that in part 1.
That's right.
Habakkuk or Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 5.
That's right.
And when the Jews were gone out of the synagogue, the Israelite foreigners besought that these words might be preached to them the next Sabbath. Now when the congregation was broken up, many of the Jews and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who speaking to them persuaded them to continue in the grace of the Most High.
Because you had certain Jews that believed. Go ahead.
And the next Sabbath day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of the Most High. And when the Jews saw the multitudes, they were filled with envy.
When the Jews saw the multitude, or the Israelite foreigners, congregating to hear the word of the Most High that was supposed to be for them, because it was extended back, the grace was extended back to the Israelite foreigners, it says, I'm sorry brother, it says they were filled with envy.
And spake against those things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and blaspheming.
So they was pissed off, they was mad. So they resorted to just telling a bunch of lies and blaspheming against what Paul and them were teaching. Now let's go back to Romans 11 and 11.
Romans chapter 11 verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? The Most High forbid, but rather through their fall salvation is come unto the Israelite foreigners, for to provoke them to jealousy.
That's, now you understand what that means, because the Jews were pissed off that the Israelite foreigners were being brought back to the fold, because that goes back, if you read the parable of the prodigal son, that whole parable is talking about the Jews in Jerusalem and the Israelite foreigners. Those who have an ear, let them hear.
Which means let them understand.
Exactly. So I said, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? The Most High forbid, but rather through their fall salvation is come unto the Gentiles, or the Israelite foreigners, for to provoke them, the Jews, to jealousy. Alright? So now, go to Romans, the 10th chapter and the 19th verse.
Romans 10 and 19. For I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you.
Right, so see, all these scriptures are tying back together, because we went, in the previous video, we went back into the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, and it says, but I say, did not Israel know? Did not these Jews know? And even really the whole nation of Israel, because back then they knew, because Moses told them. That's why he said this. But see, if you read this and you don't understand that certain Israelites fell away from the promise of the Most High, and the Most High was going to have mercy on them later, then you're not going to understand what this is talking about.
Exactly.
That's why he said, I'm sorry, it said, but I say, did not Israel know? First Moses said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people. And we read back in Hosea, the 1st chapter, that the Most High said he was going to call Israel a no people.
That's right.
Lo ami, la I'm Yah.
That's right.
You are not my people.
Right.
But in the place where it was told them, which are the Israelites, you are not my people, there shall be said that you are the children of the living power,
which is America.
Which is America. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses said, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people, and by a foolish nation I will anger you. Now let's go back to Acts 13. Let's go back to Acts, the 13th chapter and the 45th verse.
Acts 13 verse 45. But when the Jews saw the multitudes, they were filled with envy, and spake against those things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and blaspheming. Then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary that the word of the Most High should first been spoken to you.
Right. It was necessary that the word of the Most High should first have been spoken to you, Jews. Go ahead.
But seeing ye put it from you, and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, lo, return to the Israelite foreigners.
Return to the Gentiles, or the Israelite foreigners. Now go to Zechariah 12 and 7. See, now you're going to have the full understanding of why this was written, or why this was said. You know? Zechariah, the 12th chapter and the 7th verse.
Zechariah to the 12th verse 7. The Lord also